You could go all the way to 6 o'clock if you want.
Okay.
Tap your mics for me, please.
Test, test, test. Test,
Oh, you said
tap.
This is the air I breathe.
Hi, this is Sandal Taylor, and you are listening to Life After, and this is on the Go radio station, powering the voice of community and change. I thank you so much for joining me this evening. I am super, super excited because tonight I have a guest. This is Miss Jackie Chaney.
Hello.
And she's my special guest for tonight. We usually talk about life after, but tonight we're switching topics just a tad, and we will be talking about life after. I'll let Miss Jackie Chaney, she's going to introduce herself, and then she'll tell you our topic for tonight. Miss Jackie, how are you tonight?
I am well, and yourself?
I'm doing pretty good.
Thanks for having me.
Good. You're welcome. Tell the people just a little bit of something that you would like them to know about yourself.
Well, first off, I am a mother of two beautiful children. I am happily married of 12 years. I love children. I work with children daily. I just enjoy life. I enjoy, spending time with the kids on the cheer field and football field. And, I love serving folks. And, today is a day where I can, express some things that I've encountered in my life.
Yes, yes. And you may say, well, what is she talking about? We're talking about tonight being conceived out of a rape. Now, this woman, as long as I've been knowing her, is a special jewel. And she's one of the most pleasant people I've ever known. And sometimes those special jewels are birthed out of a challenge, or they're birthed out of a hardship. And Miss Jackie here will just tell you all what I mean by conceived from a rape. Jackie, would you tell?
Sure. I was conceived out of a rape. My mother, she had my brother, and she worked at Steak and Shake in St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay.
And she was working one evening, and out of the blue, a man comes in, and he takes her.
Okay.
And, a few months later, she realized that she was pregnant, and, she had some decisions to make, and, and it was hard for her. And here I am. 33 years later. God is so good.
Yes, he is.
But God had to deal with her. I could remember her telling me that, she would have dreams, and, she didn't know, she was intending on aborting me. And the Holy Spirit didn't allow that. And when she was in the hospital with me, after she gave birth to me, my grandmother and my aunt decided, hey, just we'll take her and we'll care for her. And, again, my mother couldn't do it.
Wow.
And it was tough, because I didn't find out until I was 14 years old.
Okay.
And I didn't understand how my brother and I looked so much alike, and my little sister looked more like my dad, that was raising me. And I think she knew that as I became older, this is something she needed to let me know.
Yes.
So it was tough for her, you know,
Okay.
and she broke it down into a scenario, and she said to me, well, I know this lady who had a baby, and, you know, she was raped, and how
So
would
she
you...
made a story up.
She sure did. And I think she did that, excuse me, to see mentally where I was.
Yes.
So once she did that, you know, it was, I had my challenges. I went to a little shell because you have that, well, why me?
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
But again, being, you know, growing up in the church, and I think that had a lot to do with it. And, you know, my father, you know, who she was married to, he took me and I was his child,
Wow.
you know, and I went from Jones to Mays.
Okay.
So it's just a blessing. God knew what he was doing,
Yes.
you know.
And he usually does. He
Absolutely.
usually does.
Absolutely.
For those of you who are listening out there and tuning in, we are talking about being conceived out of a rape. And maybe you're out there and the same thing happened to you. You just heard Miss Jackie tell about tell of her story, just a little bit of how she was conceived and how it was for her mother and how she found out. I really believe that this is encouraging someone tonight, because just because you were conceived a certain way does not mean that you are not special. Like I stated earlier, this woman is one of the sweetest women I have ever known. And sometimes those jewels and those precious jewels they're just birthed out of challenges, and they're birthed out of a hardship. And you know, I don't know who I'm talking to tonight, but just be encouraged and know
Absolutely.
that you have purpose.
Absolutely.
There is something on this earth for you to do, and you are special. And so we're talking tonight about that, being conceived out of a rape. Once again, this is Sandal Taylor with Life After. You're listening to On the Go radio station, and we're powering the voice of community and change. And tonight, I have my special guest, Miss Jackie Cheney. It is such a pleasure to have her come tonight and just tell about her story and how mentally it was for her in the beginning and how it was for her mom. And we're just so excited to share this with you because someone else needs to be encouraged. And that's what it's all about. Would you say that?
Absolutely.
Being able to encourage someone else,
Yes.
even though you've gone through, you can encourage someone. So, okay, I made it through, so can you.
Absolutely.
So can you tell us just a little bit about, just pull the curtain back for us and let us hear a little bit how it was maybe when you were 15, 16. How was it for you at that age?
It was a challenge, and I say that because I began to resent my mother.
Okay.
You know, and I would put this wall up, and I would have an attitude. And,
Okay.
you know, growing up in church, you know, the minute you get in trouble, you're going right up for prayer, and that's right where I went. You know, but I could say to a young lady, a young man that may have endured, you know, what I have, just be strong, you know who you are, you know, and be strong in that. And, you know, your parents, your mother, you know, it's out of her control,
Okay.
you know, and just to be strong. I have to say, for me, my faith allowed me to get over it,
Okay.
you know. And, you know, when I had my daughter, I'm like, well, what if something happens to her? And, you know, but I had
It was
to,
on your mind.
absolutely, but I had to keep my faith and be rooted in God and know that, you know, I'm here for a reason.
Yes.
I have a story to tell, and,
Yes.
you know, I can't lean on, you know, what my mother went through, and,
Right.
you know, and I give her praise because she didn't have to do what she
That's
did,
right.
you know, so I honor her and I love her.
Yes.
And you know, I'm there for her, you
That's
know,
good.
and that's what it's about. So
That's good. Now, would you say, because I know you stated earlier that it was a bit of a challenge, at what point did you see or know in your mind that you were set free from those painful memories? When was it? Do you remember the time? Because I know for me, I know I stated earlier on the broadcast, I have a musical organization called I'm Made in Your Image. And the reason I started that organization is because I was sexually abused as a child. And so years and years went past, and God delivered me from the mindset and the painful memories of those things that happened to me. But I want to know from your perspective, when did you just know that you were free? Because I know for me, I just looked up one day. I don't know what day it was. I believe I was about, I had my third son,
Okay.
and I didn't think about the pain anymore. I didn't relive the memories. So what point in your life did you realize, okay, I don't feel I don't feel the way I used to feel when my mother first told me? When did that happen for you?
I would have to say roughly maybe 16, and I say that because God has a purpose.
Yes.
And He does things for a reason.
Yes, He does.
And I was fortunate and blessed enough to have a godmother and a godfather. And again, my father who raised me, he adopted me, and I had a godfather, and God placed them in my life to fill that void.
Wow.
Although I had my doubts and my questions, I was even calling family members like, can you help me? And, but God placed those male figures in my life for a reason.
Yes.
And I love my father. He does, if I need him, he's there for me.
Okay.
And, once I met my husband, that void was filled because I was just receiving that male love.
Yes.
And I needed that. So, I had my questions and I needed answers, but God knew the desires of my heart.
Yes.
And, just at 16, I said, you know what? I'm not going to look for him. I'm not going to see if I could get, information from the police.
Okay.
I'm not going to do any of that.
Yes.
Because God gave me what I needed.
Yes.
And I have to say, after I had my son, my husband I would boohoo and cry to him because it would resurface.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, I want to know where I come from, and I don't think it's fair,
So
but
you went through that part of it.
absolutely. But I have to look. And I tell myself, God, he's already laid it out for you.
Yes.
He put, Jarvis in your life. He put Ved in your life.
Yes.
He put your husband in your life to fill that void.
That's right.
And I'm delivered. I feel delivered.
That's
I feel
good.
free. I have a purpose.
Yes.
And to that sister or brother, you are going to be okay.
Yes.
If anything, believe in God and
Yes.
step out and let Him be your father.
That's right. That's right. I couldn't agree anymore. I just think it's so important. I didn't grow up with my biological father, and just to know that God placed a spiritual father in
Absolutely.
my life. Apostle Wayne T. Jackson is my spiritual father, and Dr. Beverly Y. Jackson is my spiritual mom. And I came to that particular church, Great Faith Ministries. It was in the mid-90s. I didn't have a relationship with my father. I didn't have that person in my life, that father figure. So I understand what you're saying. But they put, God put men in your life to fill that void. And young women need that. We need the men in our lives, But back to the point, having a spiritual father, and then later on having getting married and meeting a wonderful man, that is so important.
Absolutely.
And so we want to encourage the young men and women out here who have been conceived by a rape. Maybe you're filled with a rage and so much anger. And I just want to encourage you tonight to let God in your life. Give your life to Christ. Let Him come in and change you. If it had not been for God in my life and in Miss Jackie's life, we don't know what we would do, And so God has to come in and give you a forgiving heart, because you'll see that person. In some cases, you may see the person and you relive it all over again. Oh, there he is. How come he can just go on about his life and he violated me? Trust me, I understand being violated. I was violated at 5 years old. Jackie was you heard her situation with her mother. And so it is so important for us to have that forgiving heart, but only with God. It's only with God can you forgive. Once again, this is Life After with Sandal Taylor, and you're listening to On the Go radio station, and we're powering the voice of community and change. This is Miss Jackie Chaney, once again our guest, and we're super excited to have her tonight. And she's talking about being conceived out of a rape. And maybe you're listening or maybe you're watching and you say, well, I just don't know how to do that. I don't know how to move forward. I don't know how to forgive. Trust me, it's doable. She did it. I had to do it. I had to forgive those people who violated me, even at the early age of 5. Forgiveness is forgiveness. And I heard so many people say, have you ever heard people say forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for you?
Absolutely.
Because as long as you hold on to what happened, and it was a painful memory, not saying that you didn't go through anything, because sometimes I think people think, well, you're not in my shoes and you haven't walked in my shoes. But if you have someone in front of you saying, this is what I went through, and I went through the similar situation that you went through, then why not listen and say, okay, I'll think about what they're saying. I understand you may be angry and you may be enraged at what happened to you, but forgiveness will start you on the road to recovery. It will start you on the road to a new life, being able to forgive that person, whoever they are. So, Miss Jackie Chaney, we're just so excited once again to have you on tonight.
Thank you.
And I'm just so glad to know you. We've been knowing each other. Our children play football together. So we've been knowing each other, about 4 or 5 years
Yes.
now. You know, and we see our young men on the football field. They're putting the work in, you know, to win that championship. We're going to win that championship this year. So we've been knowing each other about 5 years now. And just to understand and know you is a blessing. Miss Jackie's the most pleasant person, like I said earlier, very pleasant. And knowing what she's come out of, only God can give her the shine that she has. Only God can give her that peace that she has. And only God can help her move forward in her life, even though she was conceived out of a rape. So I don't know who I'm talking to tonight. I just hope that you will be encouraged and know that you matter. I mean, would you say that, Jackie?
Absolutely, and you do. You do. Just, you know, look at yourself in the mirror and say, I matter, I am beautiful, I am special.
Yes.
You know, and embrace your mother and love on her. You know, it's not her fault.
Right.
And God can and God will.
That's right. And also, you know, you may have been conceived out of a rape and you have a father who you're bitter with. And all the people in your family, they may have known what happened to you, or maybe they didn't know. And I think sometimes relatives who know or may not know, you may be angry because you feel like, okay, I think you should have did more for me, or you didn't do this, or you didn't do that. When you have that type of attitude toward that person, there's a lot of tension. And you get in the room with that person and they're yelling and you're yelling, no one is being heard. It is so important to have that forgiving heart and understand that whoever knew or didn't know, you have to forgive them as well.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes when we go through situations, we're already enraged, we're already upset. So when we see someone, we have it on their mind, well, why didn't they help? Or why didn't they tell? Or why didn't they? And there's so many what ifs. When you take the time to say, I need to just talk to this person and even understand, okay, what really happened, or why did you let it happen, or just vent to that person, because sometimes that other person is hurting. Maybe it's someone in your family that knew about what happened with them and they didn't say anything. Sometimes we have to make sure that we have that line of communication open.
Yes.
And we have to understand that we have to forgive, and we have to close the chapter that's negative and makes us think of those things that happened and say, you know what, I'm going to lay it all out on the line. I'm going to get all my frustrations out.
Yes.
Let's talk about this. What can we do to move forward?
That's right.
We want to thank you so much for listening tonight. I thank you, Jackie, for
Thank you.
being here. And I just know you encouraged someone tonight. I thank you so much for being with us tonight. Once again, this is Life After with Sandal Taylor, and this is on the Go radio station, powering the voice of community and change. Thank you so much, and you all have a wonderful evening. Good night now.
Good night.